Hey, what is up guys, Khraze here, and in today's guide we'll go over everything you need to know about technologies and the way to upgrade them. The current update brought a significant overhaul to the way tech is handled in No Man's Sky, which means that most of the old guides are pretty much obsolete right now. That's why in today's video we'll cover the best tech out there, how to acquire it, as well as the best ways to upgrade it. So I hope you all sit comfy in your chairs and let's get to it. To make it easier to understand, especially for those who played this game in the past to some extent, up until Atlas Rises included, technology upgrades were exclusively handled through blueprints. These could be bought from space station vendors, where they would be randomly spawned, being rewarded from certain missions as well as from manufacturing facilities. Each technology had several types of blueprints that could be applied to them, and there were several tiers of each. To give you an example, your multi-tools mining beam could be upgraded to increase its damage, reduce its cooldown, ammo cost, and so on. Each blueprint came in 2, 3, or possible 4 tiers, so we had Sigma, Tau, Theta, and sometimes Omega as well. Because of these, you'd need a ridiculous amount of inventory slots to put in all of these available upgrades, and that would typically not let you have enough room if, for example, you wanted to add a new weapon type, which again needed its own upgrades for all sorts of bonuses. Starting with next, which is the current update, this mechanic has been reworked and made not only simpler but also more convenient. What Hello Games did was that, generally speaking, technologies got separated into 2 categories, so blueprints and modules. For the most part, blueprints install major tech that alter the piece of equipment it's installed on, such as a new weaponry type, for example, on your multi-tool or on your ship. And then we have modules, which exclusively deal with adding bonuses to the existing blueprint tech that you have installed. There are still a few exceptions in which certain blueprints still add bonuses and behave like modules, such as for example the neural stimulator in your exosuit inventory, which kinda behaves like the module and increases running distance and the jetpack power. But I will talk about these a little bit later into this video. But yeah, you can even see this distinction being made even by the space station vendors, as now they have 2 separate sections, one for blueprint and one for modules. Every major inventory in the game right now not only supports blueprint technologies but upgrade modules as well. Some of the tech comes pre-installed in certain inventories, so for example we have the exosuit, which comes pre-installed with a hazard protection, life support, and jetpack, which cannot be uninstalled nor can they be moved. Additionally, there's also the hazmat gauntlet, which is rewarded from doing a base mission, and this is required to get like advanced materials, such as for example some really rare plants. On top of these, there are 3 additional acquirable blueprints, which can also further upgrade the existing default tech and can stack on top of the upgrade modules. These are of course the shield lattice, the oxygen recycler, and the neural stimulator, and of course we also have the rocket boots, but they kinda seem to not work currently, and they don't really give a bonus. They only give you a prompt to double press X or spacebar to activate them, but it just don't work as of now, or at least I couldn't get them to work. But they typically come up in class C or B, and despite their ranking, they provide significant bonuses on the tech category they upgrade. Multi-tools typically come pre-installed with a mining beam, a scanner, and an analysis visor, but more advanced ones can also have other tech installed, such as for example a boltcaster, a terrain manipulator, or something like that. Multi-tools have several blueprints for multiple weaponry types like boltcaster, the plasma launcher, the scatter blaster, pulse splitter like the one that I have, and even the terrain manipulator. Additionally, there are again certain upgrades that behave like modules and they can stack on top of them. So for example, we have the Baron ionizer for the boltcaster or the amplified cartridge. Starships come with pre-installed launch thrusters, a pulse engine, of course deflector shield as well, and a cannon as well, which cannot be uninstalled nor moved. But when buying more expensive ones, for example, you can also have an additional rocket launcher or a phase beam, and even sometimes a hyperdrive upgrade, of course all being uninstallable. The first ones were not, but these ones of course they are. There are more blueprints here that can be installed, and again they also behave like upgrade modules, except they are not, and they stack on top. And finally, we also have the freighters that I briefly mentioned, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking me where do you find hyperdrive upgrades, and unfortunately at the time of making this video that is not a possibility. I have not seen or heard of anybody to find a place where you could buy these, and I'm pretty sure you can also not acquire them from manufacturing facilities, so unless you got them in Atlas Rises or before that, there is no other way for you to get them. Personally, I have them unlocked and I'm pretty sure I can install them, though I didn't try so far, but yeah, you cannot acquire them as of yet. Probably just an oversight or maybe intended, but we'll have to wait and see. Moving on, now that you kind of have a general idea of what upgrading technology means in the context of No Man's Sky, it is time to move over to the modules. These are now the main ways of upgrading certain tech further on by increasing its raw stats, so like stuff like damage, reload speed or clip size, and for your jetpack for example, the boost that it has. The main ways of getting tech modules is of course by purchasing them from space station technology vendors in exchange for nanites. They can occasionally also be rewarded from missions, for example on the Anomaly, or from buried technology crates, but it is much more RNG dependent. They come up in 4 different tiers or classes, with S being the strongest and C being the weakest. All of the modules are procedurally generated from the name itself to how many of each type spawns in each system, and even the stats that they give. There are upgrade modules for literally every single tech in the game, probably with the exception of the terrain manipulator. I think that is the only one that doesn't have an upgrade. While the stats, as I mentioned, are randomly generated for each model, typically it is all within a range no greater than 5%, at least from my findings. This means that you're generally safe buying and installing any max rank module if you're like a min-maxer, but there is one occasion when it can make a difference, and that is when the upgrade module also adds a perk. So to give you an example, I have the pulse splitter technology installed on my multi-tool, and I also have 3 max class modules on top of them. They increase various stats such as damage, clip size, reload times, and so on, but some of them also add a perk that makes projectiles ricochet. So the problem is that for these types of bonus perks, you'll want to only have one of them, as it is pretty much redundant to have 2 or 3 or more. Unfortunately for me, 2 of the modules that I have installed have these perks, which pretty much means that 2 of them have useless stats. Otherwise, there's no other thing you'd have to pay attention to unless you really want to like max out everything and just get best of the best. But if you have these perks and you have multiple of the same perks, you will have no benefit basically. So you will have to ditch out any of the modules that duplicate this perk, because it's pretty much useless to have more than one. As for the number of upgrade modules that you can install, the game only lets you install 3 of the same type per inventory. Going over this limit will actually overload the tech and it will make it useless. It doesn't matter what classes the upgrades have, you can only ever install 3 at most. So even if you have a combination of A, B, C or S, it doesn't really matter, because they can only be installed in groups of 3 per inventory. But as I've said, this is per inventory thing, meaning that you can install 3 modules in your normal slots and another 3 in the technology section, in total of 6 upgrades for one single technology. The only place where this cannot be done is your multi-tool, as it only has one type of inventory, unlike for example spaceships and your exosuit, which also have a technology one. Additionally, as I've mentioned earlier, there are certain blueprints you can install on top of the modules without overloading the tech. As I've mentioned, most of them are going to be over in the main inventories. You'll see that even though they behave and appear much like the normal modules would, they still stack on top of them and will further increase the tech capabilities. A jetpack, for example, could hold the main tech, 3 modules, and the additional blueprint you can acquire from your exosuit tech vendor. Placing these down is as easy as it gets. Unlike blueprints, modules don't require materials to build, and they can simply be put in any slot of your choice as long as it's free by simply pressing the button E and then putting down the module wherever you see fit. Keep in mind that upon installing them, they cannot be moved anywhere, but they can be dismantled for some resources. Once that is done, the module is gone and you'll need to acquire a new one to put it down. Also, they don't show your stats until they're actually installed, meaning that this upgrade process will be done through quite a little bit of trial and error. But an important piece of information you have to keep in mind is that every technology you install can have another bonus on top of the one that is provided by blueprints and the modules themselves. This is known as the upgrade or proximity bonus, and it carries over in this update as well. If you didn't know, this was also a thing before this update, and it was probably in the game ever since the very beginning. What this feature does is that when you install the same technology blueprint and modules next to one another, they will receive an additional bonus of proximity. This can be visualized in the inventory by the highlight contour each upgrade gets. So as long as the upgrades touch each other, they'll get the bonus, and it is quite significant. It can be improved even further if you also connect it to the main technology. For example, you can connect the hyperdrive with the modules to increase the range even further. Do keep in mind that sometimes a certain unsalvageable tech lands in a spot that does not permit modules to be installed next to it, case in which you can just put them wherever you see fit, and unfortunately you won't be able to take advantage of this. In my case, I have the exosuit, which has a little technology that cannot be accessed because, well, it is covered by 2 others. So yeah, pretty much that. Also, the bonus won't trigger if you place the upgrades diagonally, so you can put them in any shape you want. It can be in a straight line, it can be in an L or in a T. So wherever you find a place to put them, just put them down. As long as they touch each other, they will be fine. So now that you know all there is to it, I'll give you a few more tips on how to find the best upgrades out there. First of all, each space station can spawn none or any type of upgrade modules as an S-class. They can also be reshuffled if, for example, you don't find the appropriate one, by simply reloading the game, and you might get lucky to get a better module compared to the one that you would have gotten otherwise. I'm also hearing reports that you can also reshuffle them by buying a lower class module and then immediately dismantling it. So if you find an S-class module that isn't that great or has stats that you don't like, you can buy a C rank, install it, then quickly dismantle it, and the module pool should be re-rolled. I haven't tested this out properly and I'm not really sure if it still works in this patch, but you can go ahead and try it out. Nonetheless, you find at least one S-class module in any space station, and from what I've seen, it isn't really dependent on the economy type, so I definitely found a lot of max rank ones in poor economies as well, not just in rich ones. And this should cover everything there is to upgrade technologies and modules. It seems that the process has been simplified quite a bit, and it was also made more interesting. Of course, you'll need nanite clusters to buy them, so better start farming them in all of the ways that you can. But that's all the time we have for today. I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, then a like and a subscribe would be super appreciated. Also activate the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next one.